Good morning, world changers. I hope you're all well. This very bright spring sunny morning, bit frosty out there, but a lovely day nonetheless. Spring has sprung, which is the perfect start to this coaching week with the lovely Jackee Holder. Welcome back, Jackee. It's lovely to have you again.
Good morning, everyone.
For our world changers, if you haven't seen Jackee's previous week, I highly recommend you watch it. It's a lovely week of self-discovery, and we're going to be doing some more of that with Jackee. So we're going to be looking at using nature as a tool for self-discovery, and you're all about nature, aren't you, Jackee? I mean, you're a writer, you're a leadership coach. You've got various previous careers, or you've just told me you're no longer doing the Interfaith Minister work, but you've certainly done that for a long time as well. And you're a creative entrepreneur, and that's what this is all about today, the cards that you have designed. Oops, I've just chucked them all over the place. So they are called the Inner and Outer Nature Self-Discovery Deck, and they are a lovely gift for somebody. If you wish to get them, you can get them from Jackee's website, and we'll post them in the group later. But they're also a fantastic tool for your own growth and self-discovery, and that's what we're going to work with all week. So, Jackee, let me, first of all, before we start understanding how we use the cards, tell me, why it is you always work with nature for your own self-discovery.
Yes, thank you, Susie, and thank you for that lovely introduction. And it's just great to be back here again. I was just kind of running back to the memory of our first time and just how rich it was. So I'm really looking forward to the next 5 days. Even though I won't be live every day, I will be with you in your inboxes every day. So yeah, that question around why nature. I thought you started off with a really good comment that we are nature. And that's the reality. We have been deeply connected. We have an ancestral, primal connection to nature. We are from the earth and we are of the land. And we have been deeply connected to the earth and the land. And one of the things that I found in my work as a coach, doing one-to-one work, working with teams, working with groups, running leadership programs, is when you're working with an individual around their leadership or around their confidence or around leading their team or around their time management, at the core, you have to work with who the person is. And one of the things that I found was whenever I mentioned my love of nature or my love of walking or my love of trees, people suddenly perked up. It was almost like eyes lit up, bodies moved, energies increased. And I started to notice that actually when we talk about nature, I think we get back to our core essential selves. And I found that for myself when I started walking over 25 years ago. I didn't know why I started walking, Susie. I just knew that I listened to my body messages, which said to me, Jax, you are hanging around on this sofa a bit too long, my dear. You need to.
Your soul was calling you to get out.
My soul started calling me.
Yeah.
And I listened to the call of my soul. And I got up that day, that afternoon, and I did what I call my first maiden run to my local park. And I ran all the way around my local park without stopping, which was big for me. Yeah.
I know what it's like to start running.
You know what I mean? And I hadn't, I was a brilliant sports person at school. I was the fastest runners in my school, just by the virtue of having long legs, Susie. But I had neglected spending time with myself and I had disconnected from nature. So when I started running and walking, because the walking complemented the running. So after I would run, I would go for a long walk afterwards. because the walking was a slower pace.
Yeah.
So I could see and absorb everything around me. And what I discovered was that in nature, I connected to my true nature. So the aspects of myself that were deeply hidden, I wasn't connecting with, I wasn't using my strengths, I wasn't connecting to my passions, I wasn't allowing myself to answer that call of, you know, what do I really want? What do I really desire? You know, how do I want to be spending my time? Nature gave me the space to re-engage with those questions. Mm. And it did it in a very natural, energizing, nourishing way. You know, it wasn't like having to spend money and go to a therapist or even a coach, even though I was having coaching at the time. But it meant that I became more of a coach to myself and that nature became the teacher. I think it's Tina Welling, she said, nature is our first great mother, our first teacher. And I can definitely connect with that as the earth being the great mother. I felt like where perhaps I hadn't been mothered myself, or I wasn't mothering myself, that nature helped me to connect back to that mothering. Yeah. And we can say that whether we're, you know, whatever our gender definitions are, we all need the mothering. It's the feminine principle. And so nature, being out in nature, I began to feel more alive. I deepened my journaling practice. So what I found was the way my brain alchemized when I was outside, which is one of the things that nature does. It really allows your imagination to expand, your consciousness to expand. It has less distractions coming in at it, which means your natural organic fiber of your brain fertilizes, crystallizes, manifests in a much more profound, engaging way. And we know this from neuroscience. We know this from the research studies that have been done. There was a research study at Stanford University, 2014. They found that a 15-minute walk increased people's creative output by 60%. Wow. Now, if you think about post-pandemic, let's think pandemic, post-pandemic, triple pandemic, in terms of what we've been faced with in these global times, in these modern times, one of the skills that we all need is to engage with our creative intelligence. We've needed it to survive and thrive through these times. And with more screen time, Susie, it means that more than ever, we need to be connected back to the land, back to the earth. So I realized that this practice that has become a deliberate practice in my own life. So whatever is going on in my own life, it doesn't matter. Walking's in there.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't
be in there for your survival.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable.
Yeah. And I can completely resonate with that thing. I mean, it is taking a pause on your busy day. When you go for a walk in nature, you're basically saying a message to yourself that I matter. It's my self-care. And you're taking yourself away from this stressful environment or this environment, the screen time, like you say, because we're spending so much time on Zoom and all the rest of it now. But I know that when I started really connecting with nature and understanding the power of nature, that nature would always give me signs. You spoke there about going out there, the creativity coming in, but it was really tapping into my own inner wisdom, because I knew the answers, but I was never stopping and pausing long enough or giving myself that space for those answers to come out, because it was just do, so busy, oh, can't stop, can't take a break, can't do this, you know. And it was only when I actually went from I've got woods beside me and I go for a walk there.
Wonderful.
All the answers come in. And to any problem I have, when I go for that walk in nature and I take that time out, the inner wisdom comes out. You know, you mentioned about working with a coach. Now, coach may ask you those thought-provoking questions that you don't know the answers to. Yet, when you get out in nature and you walk and you take that time out, those answers come. You know, the space is what you said. So I completely resonate that. And, you know, numerous life changes have happened as a result of those walks in Culloden Woods, because I've come out and went, that's what I need to do. Or this is my inspiration, and it's been there. And we do. Our soul absolutely knows. So all the research, in fact, I don't think I've ever found one bit of research that says nature is bad for us. All the research tells us that nature is vital for our health, well-being, and happiness.
Yes.
So how do we live more in alignment with nature? How do we get that nature more into a daily practice for us, so that it's there and it's integrated like it is for you, like it's non-negotiable?
Okay, so I think that's a really good question. I want to start really, really simple. I went to Aldi, I bought myself a bunch of flowers and I put them in the vase, and it was just a moment of, I think it was Anne Morrow Lindbergh, she said, putting a bunch of flowers in a crowded, putting a bunch of flowers in a vase in a crowded day, it's like it gives you this moment of pause. So there I was with my stargazers and my tulips in a vase, and I just felt myself drinking in and absorbing the colours. So we could start right where we are with bringing nature inside of our homes. A bunch of flowers, but take a moment to maybe feel the texture of the flowers. Smell the flowers. I had another large bunch of lilies on my kitchen counter. I opened up my front door and I was just blown away by the fragrance. How often do we forget to connect with aromas and smells and senses? So before we even go outside the door, we can connect with the nature around us inside our homes. You might have plants.
I've got plants everywhere. I've got a whole window full of them here.
Do you notice which plants need light? Do you know, I have some plants in my living room that I'll come downstairs and they'll be like this, Susie, like, just like, you know, that loopy loo. I can't remember what. Do you know, just hanging.
I've got a peace lily like that, and I can tell when it needs water. As soon as I give it water, it just goes.
So peace lilies are a great metaphor for our connection with nature. When I come in and my peace lily, it used to be across the other side of my living room in front of the French windows, I had to move them because they didn't like it there. They were always drooping. When I put them in front of the kitchen window where it gets more light, the peace lily thrives. The peace lily will tell you when it needs water.
Absolutely.
We don't stop sometimes to pause and connect with when we need nourishment or water. And I feel like when we get out onto nature, nature starts to give us signs. So one of the exercises that I do in terms of helping people connect with nature really quickly is just step outside your door or look outside your window, look at the weather and describe the weather outside. So we were saying this morning, it's, you know, the sky in London it's drab and there's a bit of a nip in the air. Sometimes that's how we feel internally. So we can use an external connection with the nature and then ask ourselves, what's your weather forecast like on the inside of you?
Great question.
Do you feel sunny? Do you feel bright? Do you feel rainy? Do you feel wet? Do you feel soggy? Do you feel breezy? Do you feel stormy? You know, just even landing in that place where you can notice, just observe. What are the emotions? What are the feelings that I am with right now? because that's the way you can pick up signs and clues.
Yeah.
And I think nature is a good way to do that.
And guarantee from the moment, like, you might get out of bed and if you ask that question, what's my weather like? You might be like, oh, it's a bit drab today. But as soon as you step outside, especially like here in Inverness, the sun is shining, it is fresh, it's cold, but it's a beautiful blue sky. And I've got the sun coming in from the window. And immediately, I mean, we both came on this morning, even though it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. It was like, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, really good today. And it's because I can feel that, I can see that spring morning coming in, and it lifts my soul already, even though I think I've only had 5 hours sleep, like I'm shattered. But I immediately, when I saw that scene, it changed my whole demeanor. And
I saw.
Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, Susie. No, you go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it really is. That's the importance of connecting with nature, getting out there, because it really can change the whole landscape of your emotions, your spirituality, everything that's going on internally in you, which then obviously projects out there externally to everyone else.
It really, really does. And you described that really, really beautifully and really illustrated just the enormity of what you can receive from just really rooting this connection with nature in very, very small ways. So you don't need to walk for an hour like I do.
No.
You can walk for 15 minutes 3 times a week.
Just stand outside the door if you haven't got time.
Open up your front door, open up your window.
Yeah.
And I want to give you a very real example. Recently, one weekend, I'd gotten up, done a little bit of writing, wasn't kind of in any hurry. And then I found myself, just as the morning went on, I was sort of, when you just find yourself, you had all these plans, but suddenly you just kind of, your energy goes quite low.
Yeah.
And I had planned to go for a walk. One of my favourite walks is getting a train into Clapham Junction, walking down to Battersea and following the river up to Fulham by the River Thames, and then walking across the bridge and walking back down on the Chelsea end down to the King's Road. For any of those who know London, it's a really beautiful walk. It's like being in the French Riviera. It's just lovely. And it's hidden away from all the hustle and bustle of, urban life. And the river just takes you along. And that's what I wanted to do that morning. But all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I don't want to do my walk. I can't be bothered. I'm too tired. And for some reason, I just sort of thought, no, get up, go to the train station, got on the train. All of a sudden, by the time I got into Battersea, I'm bouncing along. My energy has kind of increased. The sun's shining. I'm, enjoying just walking, noticing people, noticing the trees. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel good to go outside and walk.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say
it's going to make you feel better. So why is it that, we know this stuff, but why do we live so out of alignment with nature?
I think we haven't set intentional habits and practices. It's in the doing. Sometimes what we are doing, and we don't need to beat ourselves about this, Susie. I want everybody, all your change your worlders, as I call them. Everydayers, you don't need to beat yourself up about this, but all you need to do is think about, what do I want to do differently from today? I think I've noticed with myself, how comes I can find myself scrolling on Zara for like 20 minutes? I really don't need another dress. But that could be 20 minutes that I'm spending going out walking.
Yeah.
So I would say we can start to reprioritize how we spend our time. I find it all the time with my coaching clients. I do a huge amount of coaching in the NHS, really stressed out, busy practitioners. One of the first things they'll all say, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to walk. I don't have the time to journal. 3 sessions in, I had one person come back recently. Oh my God, Jackee, I want to tell you about this brilliant walk that I did. And she described all the different landscapes she walked through, how she felt when she was walking, what the walking helped her think about and connect with. And then at the end, she described how she went up, glanced around her to make sure no one was looking, and she hugged a tree.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Well, I didn't tell her to hug a tree.
But that's what she felt, that immediate.
That's what she felt.
Yeah.
And
that's almost a connection to give yourself a hug, some self-care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't that a lovely kind of parallel process?
Yeah.
Hugging a tree is also a message to us to think about the ways in which we can hug ourselves.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautifully captured, Susie.
Yeah. And a tree will always respond.
It's not gonna reject you.
No. Really,
it's not gonna say, do you think you're doing?
Yeah, like, get off me, you weirdo.
Absolutely. So that's why I call trees my tree mentors.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, just like this tree behind me, when I first started running around Brockwell Park, when I got to the end of my run on that maiden journey, that maiden voyage around the park, I noticed a big tree like this tree at the top of the park. And I decided that I would end my run there. And then for the next few months, I ended my run there every single morning. And then I would go into a kind of, like a sacred space under this tree. I think there's Alice Walker. She says, I've always known in nature what I should have known and felt in a church. And you said it. It's not that I stopped doing my interfaith ministry. It's that when I took my vows as an interfaith minister, my vows were to set up a writing ministry. So writing was a tool for self-discovery and empowerment and inspiration. And nature was like the pulpit. It's like the church, which is where the ministry is manifested. And that's the way now. And I think you captured it really lovely when you said nature is your spirituality. It is your soul. It is your spirit. I feel that's where I can align my interfaith ministry with my ministry of helping people, inspiring people, supporting people to connect with their true nature through Mother Earth, through our environments, through the landscapes around us, and through writing and journaling. And they all come together, and walking. They all come together. Absolutely. And it's really interesting, Susie, when you look at the research for journal writing and you put it alongside the research for the benefits of walking, you can't tell the difference between the two of them.
Oh, really? No, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
15 minutes. So 15 minutes of writing is the equivalent of 15 minutes of walking. So is that mentally or physically as well?
Well, that's a really
because the brain doesn't know the difference, really.
No, it doesn't know the difference. And that's a really good question that you've asked. So if we look at the journaling, or if we think of it, some people relate to it or call it expressive writing. So this is creative writing that has a purpose of developing self-awareness and deepening self-discovery, which is what these questions are.
Yeah.
These are expressive writing questions that uses nature as a metaphor to explore aspects of the self. With the research around expressive writing, what they found was when people, let's just take one of the seminal pieces of research, the work of Dr. James Pennebaker at the University of Texas. This work has been going on for almost 20 years now. They got people to write for 15 to 20 minutes. Here we go, that 15-minute segment again. 15 to 20 minutes about their most difficult life experiences or challenges for 3 to 4 consecutive days. What they found afterwards was that people engaged in the studies go to their doctors less.
Wow.
Their immune system numbers improve. Their stress and anxiety levels go down. Their blood counts change. Their physical health and well-being improves. Students who have taken part in these studies, these longitudinal studies, their grades improved. There was also a similar piece of research by Spurrier et al., which found that when James Penny Baker was involved in this research as well, he worked with a very group of despondent, quite aggressive male engineers.
Okay.
Who had lost their jobs, who had been made redundant. Half of them wrote about their feelings and their emotions as they were looking for work.
Mm.
The other half just wrote about what they did in their day. 70% of those who wrote about their feelings and their emotions got new jobs within 6 months, compared to the other half of the group who didn't.
Interesting.
So there's, to me, walking and writing are companions.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if you're great if you're doing the walking, but combine it with the writing as well. You've just set yourself up for a very healthy body, haven't you?
But Susie, can you see how this brings together the two?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
These are small enough to carry in your pocket. You can just take one card if you just want to focus on one prompt. You can tuck it into your pocket. You could have a little notebook. You could do an audio recording into your phone. You could speak out. You do an audio journal.
Yeah.
You could do a picture journal.
Yeah. I've often done audio journals. I've got loads of voice notes. Because I find when I've got that inspiration, when I'm in nature and I don't have a pen handy, and I'm like, oh, I must remember this, and I've just quickly recorded it into my phone. And it's really nice to kind of listen back to. So
it's something very powerful about when we hear our own voices.
Yeah.
Do like our own voices? Often we are listening to our voices quite detached. And I think when you hear yourself and record, I think it's a really intimate way of connecting with your essence, because our voice often is a way of hearing our original self, because your voice is so unique.
Yeah. And what you've picked up there is because, I've not made that connection before, that when I'm doing my writing, when I do take the time, because I don't do it every morning, but when I do take the time to write, it's like I am acknowledging my voice. I'm very much going, this is me, and I'm giving it the attention, and it's like going, hallelujah, she's listening, thank goodness. It's like that inner child in me that wants to be heard, and I'm not giving it the attention. I'm ignoring it and neglecting it. Oh, so Janine, I should say, not it.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it interesting, Janine Wright, she said, writing spaces, no matter how short, are like a meditation. And that's what I realized when I started running and walking. I think one of the challenges for me at the time was the meditation wasn't working for me.
Yes.
Keeping still with all of those intrusive thoughts going through my head was more anxiety provoking than when I put one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
I saw this lovely quote the other day. It says something like, my greatest medicine is there in my right foot and there in my left foot.
Oh,
Anytime I walk, I take a doctor with me, something like that.
yeah, lovely. I love all these quotes. I wish I could remember them the way you just roll them off. But it is that thing of the feelings that we have going through and our thoughts. They carry energy, and by the physical act of walking, we're burning that energy off. Particularly if it's a stress response we're in, or the negative, we're burning that energy. We're physically dissipating it through the act of walking. Now I'm conscious, gosh, we're at 7:30 already, Jackee, and let's talk about how we're going to use the cards. So today, how we're using them is for that practice of the journal prompt. So how, we are going to, if you don't have the cards at home, you haven't got your own copy, we're going to pick cards all week that they can journal prompt on. But how do, what's going on in our brains when we do that journal prompt? When, we pick a card. So I'm going to, in fact, let me just pick a card. Oh, I've just picked this one. There was a part of me that was like, oh no, I don't like that question. And then I thought, actually, no, I really like that question, because it's probably perfect for this time of year. Because I think, New Year is the worst time ever to set New Year's resolutions, intentions and goals and what have you. Always believe that you should live in alignment with nature. Winter time is a time of reflection, just going at about a slower pace. But springtime is when you start planting the seeds, when you start setting those intentions for going forward. You start watering them, you start nourishing them, and then they start thriving in summer. Then it comes into autumn again. It's like slowing down, shredding the old, and then going into that reflection period again. What have you learned? So this question is all about is growth.
Before you read the question, could I just note, so this is a great example of how you would use the card.
Okay.
Literally, you could just spontaneously, as you did, just select one card from the deck. Yeah, so this is a great example of, we've got lots of different ways we can use a card, but this one, if you're not sure about what card to choose, just pick a card. And I loved your response. Oh no, I don't want that question. Big sign, big clue.
She's like resisting.
Absolutely. We often choose the card we need.
Yeah.
How many places in our lives do we resist stuff that we are really meant to be looking at?
Yeah.
I had this lovely example recently. I got into my car about a week ago, and I thought, I turned the engine on, started turning over. I thought, uh-oh, something's wrong.
No.
Still kept driving it, but I could tell the sound of the engine did not sound right. Pulled up at my brother's the other day. I dropped something off to him. He texts my sister, who is also in the car, 5 minutes later, tell Jackee there's something wrong with her car. The engine's not right. And I thought, that's it. Do you know what I mean? Because when we get out into nature, when you hold that question, now you're looking at something that sometimes your automated response would not to be engaged with that question.
I'll deal with it later. Blah, blah. Yeah. Too busy to do that. Yeah. So will I read
the question?
Okay.
Can't wait.
What is ready for harvesting?
Oh.
So, and I know immediately it's all around my business, and it's the things that I'm like, okay, stop talking about it and just get on with it, So there's lots of things that my business I know is ready just to go. I've got a bit of prep work to do, but it's almost like stop faffing around. So
can I ask you, what's different then? What's just happened in your mind? So your question is what happens in the mind when you use one of these cards. What just happened in your mind when you read that question?
It just brought my attention to I was going to say the issue, but issue seems like a negative word, but it's just very much brought my attention to where I need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So it's very much like gone, okay, that inner wisdom has kicked in.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I can't hide from myself and the excuses I've been making and the stories I've been making. And it's just like, just get on with it. You know, it's ready. And it's, I suppose that question has highlighted to me, it is ready to harvest, because I've been sort of going, oh no, it's not ready until I do this. It's not ready until I do this. I need to get that in place before I do that. You know, that perfectionism syndrome coming in.
Yes.
And actually, no, it's good enough. It's ready to harvest. It's ready to eat. It's ready to share.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, it's like, just do it. So, yeah.
So that question allowed you to go deeper in a really resourcing way to really bring to the surface all of the reasons and the answers to what it is you need to harvest.
Yeah.
So it was a very resourcing question. Your amygdala, which normally tries to hijack that kind of thinking, has kind of stepped back. You're connecting more with your prefrontal cortex, which is saying, hold on a minute, that question is really purposeful and really focused. And actually, there are some answers here.
Yeah.
And you've just created space in all of, we started that having that conversation at 7:35.
Yeah. Like 2 minutes. Yeah.
In 2 minutes.
Yeah. But even without dissecting it with you, that happened in the split 20 seconds, you know.
That's why I wanted to ask you, what happened in your mind then?
Yeah, yeah. And then just to clarify, so the amygdala is the part of the brain that is our survival part of the brain that kicks off and puts us into the stress response of fight or flight or freeze. And and when we get out of that part of the brain, when we go into that, it actually shuts down our prefrontal cortex, so we can't think, we can't be creative, we can't make decisions. This is a making part of the brain. So it took me out of that into the creative side, into the decision making part of the brain. And I mean, I could have easily stayed there frozen and went, oh no, resist it. But
well, you did at the beginning.
Yeah. I just went, oh no, okay, get over it.
Was a snap. Yeah. But you had something that focused you. Sometimes what we need is a container, or a structure,
a tool,
a tool. So these questions help you to shift your perspective, because it could be easy for you to have stayed with your perfectionist, that part of yourself, unless it's given some ways of which it can play more. Because that part's just trying to protect you. That's all it's trying to do. Just trying to keep Susie safe.
Yeah, because it's scared of the unknown, the new.
It's scared of the unknown.
Yeah.
But with the questions, and I think it was Einstein that said, was it Einstein? I think it was. If I had 99 minutes to solve a problem, I would spend 1 minute on the answer and 99 seconds on finding the right question.
Yeah.
And
mucking around, procrastinating.
You see, and when I'm working with clients who come from all different professions in the corporate world, I have to bring in different questions because their brains are so caught up in automated and also sometimes expected questions to be asked that you don't get to the richness which is embedded in the quality of these nature focused questions and metaphors. It allows clients to really go deep and meaningful really, really quickly, and in a way where time just slows down and expands. Clients will often say at the end of a coaching session with me, I cannot believe how quickly an hour and a half or 2 hours has gone. Because when you're working with senior executives, it's an hour and a half, 2 hour sessions.
Yeah.
And just what
Which is a big time out of their day.
Yes.
You know, and they always immediately, the response will be, oh, I don't have time to take 2 hours out of my day for self-care and coaching and self-discovery. But
And we have consistently found that there is, I'm not going to say which question it is. People will find out about this question as we go through the week. But there is one question in the deck that universally gets the same response every single time I introduce that question, either in a one-to-one session, on workshops, on webinars.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Same response.
After this call, I'm going to go through it all and go, right, which question is it? I'm going to try and find it. So time is ticking on. So for the journal prompt, so we've discussed this in your previous week, but let's go into this quickly just now about what is it that people need to do? When is the best time to do it? Does it matter? Does it have to be morning? Can it be any time during the day? You know, what's the environment? How do they prepare the soil, the nature to get the best response out of themselves from the question?
Really good question, Susie. And I'm literally just going to keep this really simple. Find the rhythm in your day that works for you. I'm a morning person, but there's no point me speaking to somebody who's an owl who isn't a morning person, who's just literally going to be hating on me because I've suggested that they get up really early and do a journal prompt from the deck. That's not going to work, is it?
No.
You've got to find the space and the time. So some of my clients, I've got one client who she said, oh, I love to walk in the evening. When I've come home, taken off my work clothes, got into my walking clothes, and she'll go off for 45 minutes and walk around her neighborhood.
Nice.
And that's working fantastically for her. Yeah. And she'll carry a prompt with her or just have her notebook, and then she can jot down how she's feeling about the day as she's walking around and noticing the nature around her. And that's how the clues, how the information is coming in. You know, one of the walks we're going to talk about is taking a sensory walk. So one day you might focus on colours. So sometimes I just go out and I notice everything that's yellow. You know, from yellow buildings, from yellow flowers, from yellow plants, from yellow in the sky, yellow anywhere.
Yeah.
And it just trains the eye. And actually,
it really brings you back to the present moment. And, you know, it's a really different way of being mindful.
It's
rather than just sitting, meditating and trying to silence the intrusive thoughts.
So it's a powerful way of getting more present. It is I'm going to go back to the word that I used earlier. I feel it's a really natural way of practicing mindfulness, actually, because I've done the 10-week mindfulness course, and so much of that was just sitting there in a room with my thoughts, unable to do anything else. And, you know, at the time I was really wired around whatever I was experiencing at that time, which took me off to do the mindfulness stress reduction course. I'm not sure how much stress it did actually reduce, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm shaking my head because, like, honestly, just the way you described it, I was like, oh my God, it's my worst nightmare.
Well, it was because, you know, and it was in the evening, which is, you know, you've had all the accumulation on the day. What I'm saying, and this is not to knock that mindfulness training, because I think there's huge value in it. But what I'm saying, I got the equivalent and more through walking.
Yeah. Probably more.
Yeah, so that whole thing, absolutely. So the whole thing you said about being present is really, really, really true. And there was one more thing I wanted to connect it with. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
It's funny you said that word connect, because for me, when you're talking about mindfulness and being present, as we were talking, I was like, actually, the word that springs more to me is about connection with self.
Yeah.
Because we are on autopilot, just doing, going through our day.
Yeah.
You know, and actually the word, you know, being present, being mindful, might not connect or resonate with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, as you were talking, I was just like, no, those words are not the right word for me. It's about actually connecting with me and tuning in with me. So connection with self.
Yes.
You know, and that's what being present does. And when you know, even if you're looking for the color yellow, it's very much you become aware of your environment around you, but you become aware of the environment internally because
Absolutely.
you
really do.
Yeah.
And that's why these cards, I created these cards, because I wanted to find a way where people could make that connection to self in a way that felt really easy and natural. And, not everyone is going to go on to a personal development course.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's going to read a book. Not everyone listens to podcasts.
Yeah. But picking a card and asking a question is absolutely 2 minutes in your day, 20 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you want it, of personal development and self-discovery. You learn something about yourself just going through this deck of cards.
And I wanted to say one more thing about being present, because we spend so much time in front of our screens and looking into the screens on our phones, which are often quite small. Obviously, it's really impacting our eye health. Now, when you're in nature and you're scanning the environment, so like I talk about nature from the perspective of living in an urban environment. So I'm talking about nature that is, the trees on the streets, the plants, the hedgerows, the birds, but also the parks and the green spaces. Yeah. I'm not talking about every day going out into woods or forests, even though the region of South London that I live in was actually part of what we call the Great Northwood. So I grew up in a place called West Norwood. I now live in an area called South Norwood, and that was all part of the Great Northwood.
Right.
But there are remnants of all of that in the trees that are in the area, and the history of the place. So what I'm saying is that nature is all around us. And when we're out walking in nature and we're scanning the environment, there are nerve endings in the back of the eye which are relaxed when you're out in nature. So it's like giving yourself a natural break away from focus, concentration on the screen, and the eyes become more fluid and much more, you have a much easier feel on the eye, because the eye loves to scan, particularly new environments or new landscapes. That's where eye health completely, it's like it gets like a flood of endorphins in a way. So that's why I vary my walks. I don't walk the same route every day so that I can keep scanning. And it's really interesting. The other thing about using the cards and going out for a walk and connecting with nature, I cannot kid you, Susie, how I would have walked down a road, say 50 times.
Yeah.
And on this one day, I will see something completely new that I swear I have never, ever noticed it before.
Yeah.
The other day was a house. I thought, I've never seen this house.
How have I not noticed that before?
How have I not noticed that tree outside of that house before?
Yeah. Yeah. So it just goes to show there's always something new to see and learn. And, even if you think you've explored that street like 50 million times, there is always something new. And that's the same, again, taking it back to ourselves. There is always something new to unearth and discover in ourselves, new potential, new growth, new, it's there. There's always limitless. So
I think it goes even further. I think we can take our experience of nature and what nature connects us with in terms of our own nature. I think we take that into our work. I think we take that into our relationships. what I've noticed is that people become more observant of what's going on around them.
Yes.
Who's on the Zoom call with them? Who are they connecting with? Who are they not connecting with? One of the research studies shows that people are friendlier when they walk out in nature. The amount of people that say good morning to me and the amount of people I say good morning to on my morning walks, just because when you're walking, people, the compassion is increased and our relationships are stronger when we're out in nature. I think that's something that we can learn a lot from.
Exactly.
What if some of your team meetings were going on a walk? I write for Psychology's magazines, and when Susie Greaves was the editor of Psychology's magazine, I remember where their offices are located. They were sort of in the middle of nowhere. It's like in this woods, and you literally have to drive through this woods. Like you think, where am I going to? And then you get to this huge expanse and there's this great big barn where all the offices are. And what they would do is go off on walks at lunchtime as a team.
Oh, wow.
They would have team meetings where they did the walking and talking, going out into the nature around them. And I think that we could really benefit from doing more of that.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of coaching calls where we've just talked on the phone, both of us in different locations, just taken our phones, and we've done the coaching call by walking. I just go into my local park, which is across the road, and the other person will walk in a scenic area close by to where they are.
You know, it's funny you mention that, because that's one thing. Before the pandemic, I used to do all my calls walking outside, and now I spend sometimes 6 hours back-to-back Zoom calls, in a day. And I was just like, and I feel utterly exhausted by the end of the day because I haven't been getting up and walking around in nature. Yeah. And it's created a kind of beast, really. But listen, it is 10 to 8. We are well overrunning here. So let's get the cards. So that is one question our members can reflect on. What is ready for harvesting? And just to point out that all the cards, they have different categories. So we've got wisdom, we've got storm, we've got growth, we've got bloom, seed, root, there's another one, nature, and branch. I think we've covered them all.
Seed, branch, yeah.
So how else can we use the cards? What's another technique? I mean, I've pulled one out of the hat there, but what's another one? And we'll maybe choose 2 more cards for our members, and they can choose which one they want to do a journal prompt, and just take us through how they need to do the journal prompt. What do they do? What do they write? How do they write? That kind of thing. Yeah.
So here's one from the growth. And this is particularly helpful. So you can just look through the cards and think about, you said that issue didn't feel like a good word. I often think, what is the theme that I want to work with today? Or what is the theme that I want to explore? Or what's the inquiry that I want to find out more about? And so the growth card, the one I've picked, is you might just go through the deck, Susie, and you think, this card might be really helpful for the theme that I want to do more of a deeper inquiry into today.
Yeah.
So this question is, what if you viewed your current challenge as you not being buried, but instead as you being planted?
Can I just highlight, that's the card that I picked out as well.
Oh no. Oh yes.
Honestly, when you started reading, I was like, that is insane.
Oh, wow.
If you viewed your current challenge as you not being buried, but instead as you being planted? What's possible now? Great question. Gosh, tuned in.
So you just get your page or whatever you're writing on. It doesn't matter. It could be the back of an envelope. It could be on the back of a receipt. You just give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you have it, and you just free write what comes to you. as you connect with this question, as you notice what comes up in your thoughts or your feelings, or you even notice, I would even start with noticing when I read that question or I say it aloud, how does it feel in my body? You know, does my stomach turn over, or do I kind of feel butterflies? Do I feel hesitant? Do I pull back? I even think about, am I leaning into the question? Am I pulling away from the question? Just notice and write about it. I noticed this is how I felt. And the idea of, you know, me not being buried and planting something, just write about it. The thing about the writing, and this is supported by the walk-in. So often what the walk-in will do, as you said, it turns over the soil. And I think it turns over the soil of our imagination, of what the wisdom that's already in there. All of that, it's like the writing brings it up to the surface. Yeah, it will out, you know, everything that you have been percolating, germinating, incubating as you've been walking, let's just say, by taking this question, now you can start to kind of release some of this, make sense of some of this, put this on the page, start to see different connecting themes, start to see some of the things that you might want to take action on. Maybe there's one small thing that you need to plant that's going to come out of your journaling. I also encourage people to, once they finish the journaling, to go back into the journaling and do what we call a reflect write. We spoke about this on when I was first here for the Change Your World Every Day week. And that is where you go back in and you circle or you underline any themes or any words or any sentences or anything that jumps out at you from what you've written. So it's almost like pulling up the weeds and thinking, okay, so from what I've written about here, what do I want to yeah. Or, you know, noticing what, you know, where are the things, where's the good stuff here? Yeah. What's the stuff I want to pay attention to, as you said earlier? And now you are becoming your own guide. You are becoming your own coach. You are listening to your own words. I think that's so powerful.
It's the ultimate power.
It's the ultimate. That's what we do as coaches. Our work is, it's not about me being the expert. It's not about me, you know, advising people what to do. It's about me walking with someone to a place where they connect with their own inner wisdom and feel motivated and energized to bring about the changes that they want to make in order to be better, do better, be more, feel more in a whole range of different areas of their lives. So that's another way. You can, of course, draw. You don't have to write. You can just take your pen or pencil. And by the way, when you're out in nature, or when you're out walking, a pencil comes in really handy. My pens always run out of ink. And when you're trying to, you know, you've got them upright in your pocket or your bag, and then you try and write, you know, they're always not flowing. So a pencil can be a really good tool to just have with you. And as I found, a sharpener, because I'm one of those people who write, I press quite hard when I write. Do you know what I mean? So my pencils go down really quickly. So my little super tool is to have a little sharpener in my purse or in my bag. That just really, really helps. And I like to walk with index cards. So yeah, that's another way. We've also talked about voice notes. So you can draw, you can doodle. And I find that that's a really good way of slowing down my thinking and allowing thoughts. Is a bit like, I don't know why the image that comes to me is like just taking a slow journey in a hot air balloon, and just allowing things to just see what lands. So as I'm drawing an image, or I draw a lot of trees that have lines in them, so they've got intricate patterns in them. So I might just fill a page with a tree, or I like to draw plants and I just put loads of leaves on the plants. And that allows my mind to just be freed up. And when you do that with a card, so rather than just doing a 5-minute or a 10-minute write to this question, I would spend 5 minutes drawing or doodling and see what comes from that space. So it's like having an empty space.
As soon as you said drawing, I immediately went, oh no, I can't draw. And I could feel the anxiety of that perfectionism kicking in, because I feel that I'm not a good drawer. And I was like, oh no, it won't be good enough. It'll be messy on the page. And it's just like, okay, I actually need to look at that and just get over myself. And actually, maybe that's where I need to start and just draw, rather than, because, you know, it was immediately that anxiety and that resistance that, oh, I can't draw. So, but it's like, well, nobody's looking at it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a doodle, as you say, you know, just play again like a kid, you know.
I'm going to give you another way in, because this is, I think this is what happens for so many people, because we've been programmed to think that drawing is about being an art genius.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that we need to be a Picasso. Not that I thought his drawings were particularly great, but do you know what I mean? It's like we've connected creativity with definitions, traditional definitions of art, which are somebody else's, a very patriarchal way of looking at art.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. A way in, draw shapes, draw a tiny circle and another circle around it, and just expand your circle around your page, and then put other shapes inside your circle and just play with it.
Yeah.
Draw a flower, draw a box, and just keep writing, keep sketching more lines inside of the box, and then just play with it. See, the whole thing is about moving your hand around the page. Yeah, that's what really drawing is. That's how we learned to draw. That's how we made our first marks. You know, children aren't scribbling, they're mark making. And that's, you know, going back to that earlier point about making your mark with drawing or writing, you're still allowing your mind the space and the freedom to make those unconscious, subconscious connections with your inquiry into your question. So you can see how that really just expands the way in which you can play with these cards. Because, you know, I want people to have fun, Susie.
Well, I was going to say, that's really important, isn't it? It's just playing. It's having fun, letting go of being the adult for 5 minutes in your day, and the responsibility. Just play, enjoy, you know, enjoy that self-discovery and the things that will come up. Be curious. I always say, be a scientist in your own life. Just experiment, you know, think about what the problem is and try new things, experiment and evaluate. That's what it's all about.
And just to add to that, I have lots of, right here on my desk, I always have markers, crayons.
See, immediately I'm like, I want to colour in with them.
So my journal pages are full of colour.
Nice.
Yeah, so I might have a bit of writing next to a doodle or drawing, and I'll bring colour in, because I think that actually when we think about paint, or we think about pen, we have a very formal.
Yeah, it feels like homework, doesn't it? Yeah. Feels like, but going back to school days, and if you don't have that positive association with your school days, then immediately you're like, huge resistance, don't want to go there, you know, feels like homework, don't want to do it. Yeah. So, you
know, maybe you might do some of these journal prompts in different coloured pen that is not blue or black.
Okay, well, there's plenty of tools and tips there to get people started. You are going to be back across the week taking us through different cards and different ways of using it, and how to unpick some of the questions and how to connect with nature and ourselves and using that inner wisdom. So we look forward to that, Jackee. Thank you very much. It's been a great, very inspiring session for me. I love talking. I could talk to you for hours, honestly. I love.
Same here.
I love the way you use these metaphors of nature and all the quotes that you bring out. So thank you very much. And yeah, once again, if you do want to get a copy of Jackee's cards, they are available on her website. I will post that up in the group, but I will post a picture of the cards, 2 cards that we've chosen today. Apologies that I've not read out anybody's comments. For some reason I can't see anybody's comments. I know people are watching, so love to you all. Thank you for watching, and I will respond after we'll both respond afterwards. So will we pick one more card? Will we go for it? Do
you want to go for it?
Well, will I just shuffle and see?
Yeah, should we do that? Yeah, lovely.
You shuffle as well. I'm intrigued to know if we pick the same card again. That'll be like a proper fluke if we do. Right. Okay, let me take one out here. So I've got nature. Okay, what restorative qualities could you draw from one of the 4 seasons that could be applied positively in your life right now? What restorative qualities could you draw from one of the 4 seasons that could be applied positively in your life right now? Well, immediately it's got to be spring.
Yeah.
And, you watering those seeds that have been planted and germinating them. So yeah, absolutely. So I will post that up in the group. Thank you once again. Thank you to everybody that has been watching, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Well, Jackee will be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Going solo without me. So today's been a slightly longer session, but we'll be back to the 20 to 30 minute sessions tomorrow. So love to you all. Take care, guys.
Take care, everyone.